Shalom, my brothers and sisters in Yahuwah our Elohim, and welcome to our midweek Bible study. I hope everybody's having a good week. Well, gang, tonight we're going to continue our adventure through Melakim Bet, 2 Kings. And we'll be doing chapters 10, 11, and 12 tonight. So go ahead and grab your Bibles, because there's some confusing stuff in here that if you're not reading it for yourself, you might get a little confused. There's quite a few things going on here. Some pretty exciting things too. The way that Yehu is taking care of all the wickedness. Pretty wild. Alright, gang, grab something to drink. Grab your favorite cushy pillow and get settled in on the couch, and we'll get started tonight, okay? Alright. It's a warm one, so make sure you get something to drink, because you're going to need it, I'm sure. Right now, it is 101 degrees, it says outside. And my office doesn't have any air conditioning. Yeah, it's a little warm in here. That's alright. Who needs air conditioning, right? Yeah. We have Yahuwah. Alright, gang. Let's get started. Praise Yah. Let's get started in His Word. Melakim Bet, which is 2 Kings, chapter 10. And Ahab had 70 sons in Shomron, and Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Shomron, to the rulers of Israel, to the elders, and to the guardians of Ahab, saying, And now, when this letter comes to you, since your master's sons are with you, and you have chariots and horses, and a walled city and weapons, choose the best and most upright of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house. So he's writing letters, Yehu's writing letters to all the sons of Ahab, saying, which one of you guys has got the courage to fight for your father's throne, huh? Let's see. Verse 4. And they were greatly afraid, and said, Look, 2 sovereigns have not stood before him. How do we stand? We. And he who was over the house, and he who was over the city, the elders also, and the guardians, sent to Jehu, saying, We are your servants, and all that you say to us we do. We do not set up anyone to reign. Do what is good in your eyes. And he wrote a second letter to them, saying, If you are for me, and if you obey my voice, take the heads of the men, your master's sons, and come to me, Israel, by this time tomorrow. Now the sovereign's sons, 70 beings, were with the great men of the city, who brought them up. And it came to be, when the letter came to them, that they took the sovereign sons and slew them, 70 men, and put their heads in a basket, and sent them to him at Israel. So the people of Yasharel, of Shomron, they went ahead and they 86 the 70 sons of Ahab. They 86'd them, and they sent their heads to Jehu in Israel. Whew. Verse 8. Then a messenger came and informed him, saying, They have brought the heads of the sovereign sons. And he said, Make them 2 heaps at the entrance of the gates until morning. And it came to be in the morning that he went out and stood, and said to all the people, You are righteous. Look, I conspired against my master and killed him. But who struck all these? Know now, that not one word of Yahuwah, which Yahuwah spoke concerning the house of Ahab, does fall to the ground. For Yahuwah has done what he spoke by his servant Eliyahu. And Jehu struck all those left of the house of Ahab in Jezreel, and all his great men, and his friends, and his priests, until he left him without a survivor. And he rose up to go and went to Shemaron. On the way, at Beth Equed of the shepherds, Jehu met the brothers of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehuda. The other sovereign, the other king that he 86'd. Yeah, he met his brothers on the way. Start that again, verse 13. Jehu met the brothers of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehuda, and said, Who are you? And they answered, We are the brothers of Ahaziah, and we have come down to greet the sons of the sovereign, and the sons of the sovereigness mother. Verse 14. And he said, Jehu, and he said, Take them alive. So they took them alive, and slew them at the well of Beth Equed, 42 men, and he left none of them. And he left there, and met Jehonadab, son of Rechab, coming to meet him, and blessed him, and said to him, Is your heart right, as my heart is toward your heart? And Jehonadab answered, It is. Jehu said, If it is, give me your hand. And he gave him his hand, and he took him up to him into the chariot. Okay, Jehonadab, son of Rechab. Who's the son of Rechab? Okay, if you remember back in Numbers chapter 6, the sons of Rechab were invited to be tested. They were under a Nazirite vow to never take of the grape, ever. And they were offered glasses of wine and grapes and all kinds of stuff. And they said no, because Yahuwah told us we cannot have these. We're under this vow, so we can't have any of this. And it was accounted to them as righteousness. Okay? So now, Jehonadab, which is the son of Rechab, is in the chariot, headed off with Jehu. Okay? Alright, just so you know who that is. Verse 16, and he said, Come with me, and see my adour for Yahuwah. And they made him ride in his chariot. And he came to Shemaron, and struck all those left of Ahab in Shemaron, till he had destroyed them, according to the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke to Eliyahu. And Jehu gathered all the people, and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little, Jehu serves him much. So he's telling the people in Shemaron, yeah, Ahab may have served Baal, but I serve him a lot more. A little bit of a fib there, huh? Verse 19, and now call to me all the prophets of Baal, all his servants, and all his priests. Let no one be missing, for I have a great slaughtering to make to Baal. Anyone who is lacking shall not live. But Jehu did this deceptively, in order to destroy the servants of Baal, a righteous lie. Verse 20, and Jehu said, Set apart an assembly for Baal. So they proclaimed it. And Jehu sent throughout all Israel, and all the servants of Baal came, so that there was not a man left who did not come. And they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was filled from end to end. And he said to him, who was over the wardrobe, Bring out garments for all the servants of Baal. And he brought out garments for them. And Jehu and Jehonadab, son of Rechab, went into the house of Baal, and said to the servants of Baal, Search, and see that no servants of Yahweh are here with you, but only the servants of Baal. So they went in to make slaughterings and ascending offerings. Now Jehu had appointed for himself 80 men on the outside, and he had said, The man who lets escape any of the men whom I have brought into your hands, his life for his life. You guys let any of these priests of Baal Get out of there, and you're toast. Everybody dies inside. Verse 25. And it came to be when he had finished making the ascending offering, Jehu said to the guard and to the officers, Go in, strike them, and let no one come out. And they struck them with the edge of the sword, and the guards and the officers threw them out, and went into the inner room of the house of Baal, and brought out the pillars of the house of Baal, and burned them. What are the pillars of the house of Baal? The Ashtoreths. Yeah, the pillars that they danced around for fertility. Steeples on churches. Think about it. Okay. Verse 27. And broke down the statue of Baal, and broke down the house of Baal, and made it a latrine to this day. You just use your imagination what that means. Verse 28. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal out of Yasharel. However, Jehu did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Yasharel sin, from the golden calves that were at Bethel and Dan. So he destroyed all of that stuff, the priests of Baal and the house of Baal, but he didn't destroy the two calves that Jeroboam made. Try to figure that one out. Verse 30. And Yahweh said to Jehu, Because you have done well by doing what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all that was in my heart, your sons are going to sit on the throne of Yasharel to the 4th generation. But Jehu did not guard to walk in the Torah of Yahweh, Elohim of Yasharel, with all his heart, for he did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, who had made Yasharel to sin. He made it part way, but he didn't go all the way. Wouldn't follow Torah. Verse 32. In those days Yahweh began to cut off some in Yasharel, and Hazael struck them throughout all the borders of Yasharel. Yeah, Amram. Back at it. Verse 33. And from the Jordan to the sun rising, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites, and the Reubenites, and the Manasshethites, from Aror, which is by the Wadi Arnon, including Gilead and Bashan, and the rest of the acts of Jehu, and all that he did, and all his might, are they not written in the books of the annals of the sovereigns of Yasharel? So Jehu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Shemaron, and Jehoahaz, his son, reigned in his place. And the days of Jehu reigned over Yasharel in Shemaron were 28 years. Chapter 11. And Athaliah was the mother of Ahazariahu. Okay, Azayahu. He was the king of Yehuda that Jehu killed in the chariot. Okay, so this is the king of Yehuda now. Chapter 11, verse 1. And Athaliah was the mother of Azayahu, and when she saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the offspring of the reign. Why did she do that? Because she was going to run the show. Here we go, another Jezebel. Verse 2. But Yehosheba, the daughter of sovereign Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the sons of the sovereign sons, who were put to death. So they hid him and his nurse in the bedroom from Athaliah, and he was not put to death. So the youngest son of King Joram, okay, they hid him away because this wicked mother killed everybody else. Verse 3, and he remained with her in hiding in the house of Yahuwah for 6 years, while Athaliah was reigning over the land. So they hid this little kid for 6 years in the temple. And she never knew it because she probably never went in there. Yeah, okay. Says a lot, doesn't it? Verse 4, and in the 7th year of Jehoiada, sent and brought the commanders of hundreds with the Kerites and the runners, and brought them into the house of Yahuwah to him. And he made a covenant with them, and took an oath from them in the house of Yahuwah, and showed them the son of the sovereign. Okay, the Kerites. Who are the Kerites? The Kerites were guards of the Torah. They followed Torah. Okay, and there's further mention of them as we get into the prophet studies. They wouldn't accept what is that called? That was written in Babylon. The Tamor, whatever. The book that was written in Babylon that all these people go by nowadays. Talmud. Yeah, they didn't accept any of that stuff. These Kerites only guarded the Torah. That's it. Okay? So they've got the Kerites that are guards now for this child king. Just so we know who they are. Verse 5, and he commanded them, saying, this is what you are to do. 1/3 of you who come in on the Shabbat to be on guard in the sovereign's house, and 1/3 at the gate of Sur, and 1/3 at the gate behind the runners, and you shall be on guard in the house, lest it be broken down. And the 2 detachments of you who are going out on Shabbat shall be on guard in the house of Yahuwah for the sovereign. So he's got his own personal guards. And you shall surround the sovereign on all sides, every man with his weapons in his hand, and whoever comes within the ranks, let him be put to death, and be with the sovereign as he goes out and as he comes in. Nobody messes with him or they die. Verse 9, so the commanders of the hundreds did according to all Jehoiada the priest commanded, and each of them took his men who were going in on the Shabbat with those who were going out on the Shabbat, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave the commanders of hundreds the spears and shields which had belonged to sovereign David, that were in the house of Yahuwah. And the runners stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, all around the sovereign, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, by the slaughter place and the house. And he brought out the son of the sovereign, and put on him the diadem, the crown, and the witness, and they set him up to reign, and anointed him, and they clapped. They clapped their hands and said, let the sovereign live. And Athaliah heard the noise of the runners, the people, and she came to the people in the house of Yahuwah. And they looked, and saw the sovereign standing by a column, according to the ruling, and the chiefs and the trumpeters were beside the sovereign, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets. And Athaliah tore her garments and cried out, treason, treason. Yeah, because she was running the show and she thought she knocked everybody off. Verse 15. And Jehoiada the priest commanded the commanders of the hundreds, the officers of the army, and said to them, take her outside the ranks, and slay with the sword whoever follows her. For the priests had said, do not let her be killed in the house of Yahuwah. Don't want to defile the house of Yah. Verse 16, so they took hold of her, and she went by the way of the horse's entrance to the sovereign's house, and was put to death there. And Jehoiada made a covenant between Yahuwah and the sovereign, and the people, to be the people of Yahuwah, also between the sovereign and his people. And all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and broke it down. They completely broke it, slaughtered places and images, and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, before the slaughtered places. And the priest appointed inspectors over the house of Yahuwah. And took the commanders of hundreds, and the Kerites, and the runners, and all the people of the land, and they brought the sovereign down from the house of Yahuwah, and went by the way of the gate of the runners to the sovereign's house. And he sat on the throne of the sovereign. So they seated him on the throne. Verse 20, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city had rest, for they had slain Athaliah with the sword in the sovereign's house. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. Chapter 12. Jehoash began to reign in the 7th year of Jehu, and he reigned 40 years in Yasharelim, and his mother's name was Tisbiah of Beersheba. And Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah all the days in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. So as long as Jehoiada, the head priest, was around, he did okay. Joash did okay as long as the head priest was there. He was probably like a father figure to him. Verse 3, however, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Jehoash said to the priest, all the silver of the set-apart gifts that are brought into the house of Yahuwah, the silver coming over, each man's assessment silver, all the tithes, all the silver that a man proposes in his heart to bring into the house of Yahuwah. Let the priests take for themselves each from his friend, and let them strengthen the breaches of the house wherever there is a breach. So they were trying to fix up Yah's house, the temple, because after all this time it was getting kind of shabby. There was all kinds of fighting going on and all kinds of stuff going on, and the house was kind of in disrepair. Verse 6, and it came to be by the 23rd year of sovereign Jehoash that the priests had not strengthened the breaches of the house. The greedy priests were taking all the money for themselves. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Verse 7, and sovereign Jehoash called Jehoiada, the priest, and the other priests, and said to them, why have you not strengthened the breaches of the house? And now, do not take any more silver from your friends, but give it for the breaches of the house. Do what I told you. Quit taking all the silver and do what I told you to do. Verse 8, and the priests agreed that they would neither receive any more silver from the people, nor strengthen the breaches of the house. So taking away their cash kind of made them mad, it sounds like. So, yeah, they're not going to take any more money from the people, but they're not going to strengthen up the house of Yah either. They're just going to leave it. Little, not very nice priests there. Definitely not serving Yah. Verse 9, and Jehoiada the priest took a chest, and bore a hole in its lid, and set it beside the slaughter place, on the right side, as one comes into the house of Yahuwah. And the priests who guarded the door put there all the silver that was brought into the house of Yahuwah. And it came to be, whenever they saw that there was much silver in the chest, that the sovereign scribe and the high priest came up and put it in bags, and counted the silver that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and gave the silver weighed out into the hands of those who did the work, who had the oversight of the house of Yahuwah. And they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on the house of Yahuwah. So they hired some contractors to come in and take care of business to fix up Yah's house, the temple, and they paid them directly. They didn't trust all those crooked priests. They took the money away from them. Verse 12, and to stonemasons and stonecutters for buying timber and hewing stone to strengthen the breaches of the house of Yahuwah, and for all that was paid out to strengthen the house. However, there was not made for the house of Yahuwah basins of silver, snuffers, sprinkling bowls, trumpets, any object of gold or object of silver from the silver that was brought into the house of Yahweh, because those crooked priests wouldn't get it done. They were sitting back on their haunches going, yeah, if we're not going to get the silver, then we're not doing anything. Time to take them out too. Verse 14, for they gave that to the workmen, and they strengthened the house of Yahuwah with it. And they did not reckon with the men into whose hand they gave the silver to be paid to workmen, for they acted trustworthily. So they didn't bicker with them about how much they were being charged. They just gave them what they asked, and they just let them do it. Verse 16, the silver from the trespass offerings and the silver from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of Yahuwah. It belonged to the priests. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, went up and fought against Gath, and captured it. And Hazael set his face to go up to Yasharaleim. And Jehoash, sovereign of Yehudah, took all the set-apart gifts that his father Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Azayahu, sovereigns of Yahuwah, had set apart, and his own set-apart gifts, and all the gold found in the treasuries of the house of Yahuwah, and in the sovereign's house, and sent them to Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Then he went away from Yashalariam. He paid him off. He gave him all kinds of gold and silver and stuff, and said, here, you can have all this wealth if you just leave us alone. Not a very strong king. Did a lot of stuff, but he's not very strong. Verse 19, and the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, are they not written in the books of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? And his servants rose up and made a conspiracy, and smote Joash in the house of Millo, which goes down to Selah. For Yozakar, son of Shemoth, and Yehozabad, son of Shemor, his servants struck him, so he died. And they buried him with his father in the city of David. And Amatsiah, his son, reigned in his place. So there was a conspiracy against him, probably because of him giving all the gold and the silver away to the sovereign of Aram, to Hazael. They figured he was weak, he wouldn't fight, so they 86'd him. Okay. A lot going on there, Well, there was a lot of destroying of Baal. There was a lot of destroying of all of the priests of Baal. They didn't destroy the calves that were in, Bethel and Dan. And they didn't tear down the high places that were in Jerusalem. But they killed all the priests and destroyed all their temples and stuff like that. So they kind of went halfway. And then instead of Joash going up to defend Jerusalem, he paid off Hazael. Doesn't show very strong king there, does it? No. But, hey, remember when Obama sent a pallet full of cash over to Iran? Yeah, it kind of reminds you of the same thing, huh? Oh boy, these leaders, they're something else. Alright, gang, that's all I've got for tonight. I hope you all were very, very baruched by the word. And I pray that Yahuwah baruch each and every one of you that are seeking his knowledge and wisdom. I hope you understood everything that we read tonight. If you didn't, please go back and reread it. I know there's a lot of things going on there. There's kings that are coming in, kings that are going out, kings that are dying, whole families that are being destroyed. Yeah, there's a lot there. So if you didn't quite get it all, go back and reread it and see if you can figure out what's going on there. Okay? We need to understand everything that we read. All right, gang. Study with your children. Yep, make it a point. Study with the little ones. And practice Torah for them to see so that they learn it also. Okay? All right, gang. We will see you again on Shabbat for our next study in 2 Kings. Okay? All right, gang. We'll see you then. Shalom.